Hey, this is Malcolm341. In this video, we're going to look at how to customize the Maya interface. Customizing the Maya interface can save you time while you work, so let's get into it. Okay, so first off, you guys may have noticed in pretty much all of my videos, my interface has already been customized quite a bit. I've got the outliner over here, I've got my shelves, got some custom stuff going on here. Probably the most noticeable stuff is over here. I've got the MTK custom shelf, and this stuff is stacked here, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to show you basically how to customize all those different kind of configurations in the interface that I've done. And then at the end of the video, I will show you how to set up this particular configuration that I like to work with. So the first thing to talk about is probably how to actually get Maya back to its default state, because I've already done a bunch of customizations here and I don't even remember what they are at this point. So let's take a look at that. So let's just go into this folder here. So the folder that you're looking for is C users, your username, documents Maya, and then your Maya version number. So I'm using 2018, so you go to the 2018 folder. And then inside of the 2018 folder, you'll have a folder called Prefs. And inside the Prefs folder is a bunch of files and folders, and each one of these things contributes to some part of the Maya custom interface that you guys have set up for yourselves. So a cool trick that you can do is you can just go up one folder so we can see the Prefs folder again here. And what you can do is you can close Maya. So I'm just going to close that in the background here. Shut that down. You have to give it a couple seconds to shut down because it actually resaves all of your preferences and stuff as it's closing. So you don't want to be working on this file like while that stuff's open or whatever. And then what you can do is you can just rename this folder. So I don't want to lose any of that stuff that I've already saved. So I'm just going to call this _ backup. And what that tells Maya to do is every time Maya starts a new session, like every time you launch the program, if it can't find a folder called Prefs, it's going to generate the default preferences. So because I've renamed my Prefs folder to Prefs _ backup, it's going to be like, oh, there's no Prefs in here. Let me default to the Maya default preferences for you and regenerate everything. So if your Maya's become corrupted or something, or there's something's just working weird and you just like want to reset it back to factory, and you don't want to lose like maybe certain hotkeys or something, you want to extract those back out of there, you can just rename your Prefs folder and then you can just relaunch Maya. So I'm just going to go to the menu here and I'm going to click to launch Maya. And then if you watch here, as Maya is launching in the background here, and it's going to come up and say, oh, do you want to create the default preferences? So I'm going to say yes. And it's going to start launching that. And then as you can see here, it's actually created the folder called Prefs. And then when that finishes launching, if we look inside, okay, it's loaded up here, whatever. I'm just going to say, okay, doesn't matter. And then if we go back to that folder, see, it's created a Prefs folder. And inside that folder, we've got all of our default preferences, nothing customized yet. And then you can see here in this folder, this is my backup, and it's got all my custom stuff. So all you need to do to get back to where you were, like, because this is just for a test, is just close Maya, delete this folder, and rename this folder to Prefs, and then restart Maya, and you'll be back to where you were with all your customized stuff. Okay, so here we are in the default Maya. And so basically all of this kind of configuration of all of these elements is stored in what they call a workspace. So you can see I'm in the Maya Classic workspace right now up here. And if you drop this down to modeling standard, you'll see stuff will change. The layouts will change. Modeling expert, see it's like nothing's on the screen or whatever, XGen, all these different types of things. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to create our own custom workspace, and then we're going to configure this stuff the way that we like it. So to make a custom workspace, it's kind of weird. You don't actually do it through here. Here you can like reset, save, import, and switch between stuff, but you can't actually create a new one. So what you want to do is you want to go to Windows, and then there's a separate thing called Workspaces up here. And then here you can see kind of all the same stuff or whatever. So you can do save current workspace as, and we'll just call this YouTube for the tutorial and say OK. And just like I mentioned before, here we'll go back into the Prefs folder, and then inside Prefs, we've got a Workspaces folder, and then there you can see youtube.json. This is basically the configuration of the menu that we're about to modify. So it's pretty easy to configure the workspace. Basically, anytime you see one of these little dotted line kind of things here, that means you can tear off the menu or kind of move it up and down or do other stuff with it. So for example, maybe I don't like my shelf there. I can just left click and drag and grab that guy. And I could either leave it floating like that if I wanted to, or I can go down here and maybe I want to put it right there. It'll turn into a blue line where you can put it. So maybe I want my shelf to actually be at the bottom. So just release, and then there's my shelf there. And maybe this thing, the tools menu, maybe I never use this. So I'm going to close that completely. And then maybe I want more space here or less space here or something. Maybe I don't really care about the channel box and I want to see more of the layer editor. Maybe I don't like the time slider. I'm just going to grab that, the range slider, grab that guy and close that down. And cool. Okay, so we've got a couple modifications. So, I mean, basically what you can do is you can grab windows and you can drag it around and dock them to other places. So we could go to like Windows, Modeling Editors, let's say UV Editor, and that guy comes up. And, maybe you don't like it floating, or maybe you don't like the toolkit there. You can minimize the toolkit, stick it on the side there. Maybe you want your UV editor to be docked on this side. So you just kind of drag it over until it gets the blue line, and then you release the left mouse button. And then it docks on the side there. And then you can kind of do it like that way. So if you wanted to have a split view or something, a lot of my videos do a split view because I can only record on the one monitor. And then you can expand or contract the UV toolkit that way. You could go back into Windows, you could turn on the outliner, and this is really weird layouts in the center. Maybe stick that guy over to the left-hand side, so you've got that there. And then you could go like super crazy. You could actually take the channel box and like tear that out, and you could put it over on the left if that's what you want to do. So you can make a really hideous layout, obviously, but this is up to you guys how you want to customize it, whatever works best for you. The other cool thing that you can do is you can right click on a tab here and you can say tab direction. And so lots of them will just be the top. And what that means is it's the top tab here. So when it expands and contracts, it goes like that. And if you right click it and you say tab direction, and you say like left, for example, then the tab is over there and expands and contracts that way. And then you could also even do right, which is super funky. You could have the tab over here if you wanted to. So lots of different customization options. As well as that, you can also stack tabs here. So here we've got these different tabs that are all kind of in the same window, I guess you could say. Like that's the window, and these are kind of tabbed inside of that little window space here. I'm just going to tear this guy off and close it just so we can see what we're doing a little bit better. So you can see like that's the window for the attribute editor. That's the modeling toolkit. That's the channel box. And so like maybe we want the outliner there as well. Drag it off. And if we drop it here, it will actually go in. So if we drop it here on the left, it'll go beside it, which we don't want. And then see, it's kind of like the tab and the tab there. And if we drop it kind of under one of those guys, like right there, then it becomes that stacked tab, so you can kind of click through all of them. So that can be handy as well. I personally prefer to have the attribute editor floating, but some people prefer it to have as like a pop-out window or whatever. I'm just going to close that guy down. And so I've closed this toolbox, and maybe you want that back, or like maybe you closed it by mistake. I've often closed like a piece of the menu by mistake, and then I want it back, and then I kind of panic. I'm like, oh no, I've lost it. It's gone. What do I do? I have to revert my prefs. You don't actually have to do that. What you can do is you can come up into Windows, and then you can just go to UI elements, and we're just going to tear that off just so you can see it. And you can just see all of the missing things here. So like I said, we closed the toolbox. You just tick that guy back on and the toolbox is back. And whoops, let's drag that guy out here. And then its default state is docked to over there, and then like a little bit skinny or whatever. So you can hide this stuff here. You can hide all of this stuff with these, and you can turn them back on as well through the same menu. And then, of course, if you do encounter a bug, like this is for sure a bug. Look, I can't actually make that as skinny as I wanted to. Maybe this is fixed in my 2019, but it's certainly pretty prevalent in 2018. So I want to just have that go back to the edge there like it normally would. And it's gotten too big and I can't scale it for whatever reason. So even if I were to stick it back on that edge, which is super hard now because I can't get it out of there, like it's just not working and it's all kind of corrupted. You can just come back over here to the workspaces in the top right, and we can say reset current workspace. There we go. Oh my God, we're back to normal. So see, this is totally fixed now. And okay, and then next up, we've got the viewport background color, and then these two kind of panels here. This part's called the viewport, and this part here, I believe, is called the panel menu bar. And then this part here with all the little icons is called the model editor bar. So to change the background color, which I like to do because I like the gradation, I just got used to working that in the older versions of Maya, and I still kind of like it to this day. You hold down Alt on the keyboard and you press B, and that cycles through the different background colors. I prefer this one, the gradation. You can cycle through, there are a couple presets that they have. So I think that's the default, and then press Alt B to cycle through them. This can be handy too, actually, while you're working, because you can like check it against a black background for contrast and other things like that. So Alt B to scroll through those. And then if you wanted to hide this, the hotkey is Shift M. So you can go Shift M to hide and show the little panel menu there. And then this guy here is the same thing, but with Control. So it's Control Shift M. You can hide that guy as well. So if you really want to have some extra real estate, I've never found a need to hide those. In fact, I've hidden them by mistake, and then I was like pulling my hair out trying to figure out how to get them back. So if that ever happens to you, Shift M, Control Shift M. Those are the two secret hotkeys to hide and show those guys. And then here we've got the color space that we're working in, sRGB gamma. And so if you click this, you can turn it off, and this just goes back to basically like no color space, like how we used to make games pretty much my whole career up until a couple years ago. And this is often the mode that I work in because it's easier to look at normal maps, and all things like Unity and Unreal anyways, their pipelines convert everything into linear space and gamma correct it for you. So if you're working in this mode, just know that what you see here is what you get, and if you export that exact same texture into Unreal, it will convert it for you, and what you see is what you get there. If you make something 50% gray here, it's going to be 50% gray inside of Unreal. This is a really complex subject matter, the whole gamma space thing. It's really hard to explain. So I think in the future, I'm going to do a video just dedicated to this. But if you need to change what kind of gamma space you're working in, then you can do that through there. I personally prefer to just work in raw, or that's the same as just turning the color correction off, or sorry, the color space off. Raw and off are exactly the same thing. Okay, and next up is the wireframe color. Maya defaults to this kind of navy blue color that I don't like at all. I've been using a black wireframe for like, I don't know how long, maybe like 17 years or so. And the way that you change the wireframe color or any color on any kind of 3D model or curve or anything like that is you go into Windows and you go to Settings and Preferences and you go to Color Settings. And then in here, you can change like a million different colors for all types of things. So we're looking at inactive because I don't have it selected. Selected would be this weird green color. So inactive, and objects because it's an object, and polygon object, polygon surfaces. So here you can see it's like the navy blue. So I just slide that to the left, and then we've got black, and that is way more relaxing on my eyes and just kind of easier to read. And just click save, and that'll save it to one of those many prefs files that we talked about earlier. You could do the same thing with curves as well. I've worked on certain games where curves are important to either like mark up ledges for grinding on a skateboard or rail sliding a snowboard or something like that, and having them blue is like hard to see or whatever. So you could come into NURBS curves and you can make those actually like a really bright color. I don't know, sure, yellow. I think that's the one I used. And then along with that, you can change the color of the grid, because when I switch to the gradation background, it's not so bad when you're in the Maya default. What's the Maya default? This one, it's even then it's kind of hard to see actually. I prefer like the older grid settings, so you can go, this is in a weird spot. It's in display. I don't know why grid's in display, and it's in the options here. And then we could say like the access is black, hit apply, much easier to see. And then the grid is kind of washed out against that gradation. So you could say grid lines be lighter gray, and grid subdivision lines lighter gray. There we go. It's way easier to see now, much better. Okay, and then finally, this area over here, I like to customize this a lot. I don't really use display layers. I certainly don't do anim layers because I don't do any animations. And I just like to see like a lot of the channel box and the modeling toolkit. I like to tear this guy out because, like I said, I like the floating attribute editor. I just like to be able to come in, select my object, hit Control A on the keyboard and have it pop open, whatever, do my work, and then I like to close it. I don't like it to take any of the UI space. So I'm going to switch over to the channel box layer editor. And I want to tear this thing out, but I can't. It's actually like part of the same frame or whatever. All I can do is kind of squish it down, and I don't want to do that. I actually just want to like close that altogether. And that's actually an option. That's kind of a secret hidden option. So if you go to Windows, Settings and Preferences, and then click on UI Elements, and then come down here, and then there's a Show Layer Editor within Channel Box, and then we want to turn that off. And then so here you can see the layer editor is now a floating window. And now I can close it independently of the channel box. And now I can drag the channel box over here and snap it in as a tab. And whoops. And then so see, now I've just got the full channel box here. I don't have the layer editor kind of stuck within it. Just going to save that, close it. And now if I want to open the layer editor, I just go to Windows, General Editors, and then go to Layer Editor, and there you go. And then I showed this in another one of the videos, but the secret MTK custom shelf. So if you go to the modeling toolkit and all this spew comes up, and I don't use any of this stuff because it's all kind of built into the regular part of Maya now. If you see all these dots down here, if you drag that up, you actually get this nice custom shelf, and you can hold Shift and Control and middle mouse drag buttons from your shelf onto this shelf. So you can drag all the tools that you want in here. And this can be handy just because I'm right-handed. So when I'm doing my modeling stuff, I prefer the shelf to be like right here rather than up kind of top center. That's just a bit slower for me. One thing you need to know though is that this shelf, you can't really edit it. All you can do is delete buttons and drag buttons into it. And to save it, when you come over here and you say save all shelves, it doesn't save this shelf. This shelf only saves when you close Maya. So I'm just going to close Maya right now just so I can show you guys. So close that down. Nope, don't need to save. Okay, Maya's closed. And you'll see in this folder, in the Prefs folder, we have an MTK shelf. And that stores the contents of that custom modeling toolkit custom shelf. So if you're wondering where the MTK shelf is and you want to take that to work or school or whatever to a new computer, then MTK shelf is what you need to copy and paste it in this same folder in your other computer. Okay, let's launch Maya again. Here we go. And you will notice there is a bug to do with the MTK custom shelf. See how it's kind of went down a little bit when I restarted Maya, and I have to drag it up each time to cover up the regular modeling toolkit stuff. This is a known bug. I've reported this to Autodesk. This is the half fix for it in 2018. And I think it was supposed to be fixed in 2019, but I'm pretty sure it is still not fixed. So, okay. And then another really cool thing is I like to, I don't need my shelf to be this big or whatever. So I'm just going to tear off the MTK here and scale it down. That's probably about all the space that I need. So I want to see this and the channel box at the same time. I don't want to have to go in here and be like tab, 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 tab. I just want to always see the channel box and always see this or whatever. So if you tear this guy out, you can actually have a split vertical column too, which is super handy. So if you drag him down here and drop there, it pops here. So I've got the channel box visible and the modeling toolkit custom shelf visible at the same time, and I can choose how much real estate I want. So here's my custom shelf. I'm just going to make a sphere. And then you can see here, I can see all my scale and stuff happening in real time while my shelf is still visible. So this is kind of what I do for part of my customized interface. And then one other thing that you might notice is if you've ever created custom hotkeys for Maya and you've made a custom workspace and then you restart Maya, your workspace loads and you get all your UI configuration, but your hotkeys aren't working. That's because it's defaulting back to the default Maya hotkeys. And the way that you fix that is you go to Windows and you go to Workspaces and you go to your workspace. You click the options box here. And then in here, you have to say what menu set you want to link to. Modeling is what I use, so modeling. But then you have to say link a hotkey set to this workspace. You have to turn that on and see by default, it's Maya default. I don't have any custom hotkeys, but you would do a drop down here and you would choose your hotkeys, whatever you called it, YouTube or whatever you want. But you need to turn that on and tell it and hit apply and say, this workspace uses this set of hotkeys. That way, the next time you restart Maya, you won't have to worry about having to choose that hotkey system each time. And how you back up your hotkeys in Maya is probably the most confusing thing in the world. You go to the Prefs folder. So you have to close Maya so it saves all your hotkeys and everything. Don't do this while Maya's open. You go to your Prefs folder, and it's the weirdest thing. So there's a folder called hotkeys. I don't have any hotkeys, so there's nothing in there. You need the contents of this folder, but you also need two other files. So you copy the hotkeys folder with your stuff inside after you've closed Maya. And then, as well as that, you need to copy user named commands and user runtime commands. If you don't copy these two files and this folder and paste that into your new version of Maya or on your different computer or whatever, your hotkeys won't work. It's super confusing. Basically, they have a trick folder in here that says copy your hotkeys, but it's actually in this file, and this file. It would have been great if they would have just put this file and this file in this folder, and then you can just copy that whole folder, but they didn't. And this is the way it has worked the entire time I've been using Maya. So for the last 18 years, you've had to copy these three files. In fact, it used to be even more complex. There used to be like a fourth file you needed to copy. So just something to watch out for. Make sure you don't format your hard drive before you back up all three versions of your hotkeys to get your one hotkey. Okay, so I've reset my preferences back to default one more time, and to finalize the video, I'll show you from start to finish how I customized the interface to get what I like to work with. Okay, so first go up to Windows, Workspaces, and we're going to save current as YouTube. Okay, then let's press Alt-B to cycle the gradation on. Let's go to Windows, Settings and Preferences, Color Settings. We'll go to Inactive, Objects, Polygon Surfaces to Black, and save. Go back up to Display and go to Grid and change Access to Black and this to light gray and that to light gray. Hit Apply. Set that to Raw so we get the default color space. Come down here and grab the range slider and scale it way down and stick that on the side of the Mel window right there. Okay, and then grab that guy and pull it over because I barely need to see any of that stuff. Go to Windows and open up the outliner. Yep, put it on the side there. Go to Windows again, go to Modeling, go to the UV editor. Grab that guy, minimize the toolkit, grab this, stack it on the edge there. Great, get that guy into the split there. Take the attribute editor and pull that out into a floating window and close it. Go into Windows, Settings and Preferences, go to UI Elements, expand this guy here. Channel box within layer editor, turn off the layer editor, leave the channel box on, save that. Drag that guy down a little bit there. And then we want to tear out the modeling toolkit. Take the little dot, drag it up to the top, drag this guy down a little bit. Attach those two guys together into a single window. Let me just tear this off too to simplify it for a second here. Just get this out of the way. So we got the channel box where we want it on the side there, and then we want to get this. I guess you need to stack it into the side there and then attach it. Whoops, we want to attach that right up top here. Cool, and then bring that down. So we got a little custom shelf, and then tag this guy onto the side right there. There's the split window. I'm going to minimize the outliner, and I'm going to minimize the UV toolkit so I can get to those there and there. And then just hold Shift and Control and middle mouse drag whatever buttons you want down into the custom shelf here. And that's it. This is how I configure my Maya, and this is how I work with it every day at work and every day when I'm working on projects at home. I just find that this configuration is the most optimal for my workflow. But you guys can configure it however you see fit now that you kind of know all the little tricks and secrets about how to tear off the menus and save stuff and how to reset it and do everything you want. And then the last thing you want to do is come up to Windows and go to Workspaces and then go down to Save Current Workspace and just say yes and overwrite and boom, that's it. All of your edits are now saved. And when you switch back to Maya Classic or whatever, and it defaults to all this stuff that you don't like, you can come into here to whatever UV editing, and you can always go back to your custom one by just clicking it there in the workspace and getting back the exact workspace that you like. Sometimes I occasionally need to go into the modeling expert to take a screenshot or something where there's nothing else on screen. But don't worry, you can just come back and then just go back to yours and boom, you've got all your layout that you've saved into your Prefs folder. Thanks for watching, everybody. Without viewers like you, this channel would not be possible. If you like this video, please purchase something from the online store. Each purchase goes towards creating more video content and keeps the channel ad-free. See you next time. Have an extraordinary day.